Hey, yo, what's going on right now? You watching Casino is the Name, and in this video, I wanted to explain government contracts. What are government contracts? What types of things qualify as government contracts? It's a lot of people who might have been following my journey to where I am now, and a lot of people know I'm an accountant. I'm ex-military. I was a federal employee. I'm in real estate, so I've been a landlord for over 10 years. I've ran Airbnbs, I've done Turo, I've done Uber, I've done a lot of different things, and I've covered it all on this channel. So now I'm a CEO of my own small business, and I do government contracts as my primary source of income. And this is probably where I'm going to be probably for as long as I'm in the active side of running a business. And so when I meet people or have conversations with family members and things like that, friends, old classmates, all different types of people who come across my channel and knowing me in person or bumping into me in the streets, they all ask the same kind of thing. Hey, I've been seeing that you are doing government contracts. How do I get started, and what is it? Like, what are government contracts? I keep hearing you say do government contracts, and I want to get into it, but I don't actually know what that is. So this video was inspired by all of those different conversations, because even though I'm saying, hey, go into government contracts, or like saying going into trucking. Oh yeah, I also had my own trucking authority. I do trucking consulting, things like that. So, but me saying, hey, get started in trucking. That's some money in trucking. And somebody says, okay, but what is trucking exactly? And you would think that most people may already know what trucking is. And so maybe it's a little less of a little less confusion in trucking, even though people still say, well, what kind of trucking, and this and this and this and this. How do I get paid in trucking? Like, how do you make money? How do you find loads? You start having still those questions. And so with government contracts, it's even more, I guess, confusion about it, because somebody will say, hey, you should do government contracts, but then again, it's like, well, what is that? It's a contract with the government. I get that, but what kind of contract? What is a government contract? How do you find contracts? Then those same kind of questions stir up, but it's just, you at least see trucks on the road carrying loads. But when you hear government contracts, it's like no real representation that you see every day, all day, at least from what the common person would understand. So I wanted to do this video to talk about what government contracts are, where to find government contracts, and why you should want to do it. Okay, so government contracts. So basically, the government sources products, services, all sorts of things, buildings, people. They need a staff. They need all sorts of different things, and they source those things through contracts. Okay, so there's three different levels of government. There's state, or there's local, which would be your city and your county. So like, let's say the city of Decatur has contracts, but Decatur is located in DeKalb County. DeKalb County has their own contracts. Atlanta, Georgia, the city, has contracts. And then Atlanta is located inside of Fulton County. So Fulton County also has contracts. It's like you have a city road and then you have a county road. You have the city police and then you have the county, the sheriff department. And so that's the local level of government contracts. Then you have the state level. So Georgia has government contracts. Florida has government contracts. New York has government contracts. So you have like you have state roads, you have city roads, state roads, and we have city roads, county roads, and state roads. And then the next level of government contracting is federal contracting. So there's federal contracts, and that's like, say, like For example, okay, so the National Guard is actually, say like the Army National Guard is actually the state, is run by the state. The governor, they fall under the governor. So the state of Georgia has a Georgia National Guard. That means they have a military force like the Army, but only for the state of Georgia. And then you have the federal side, which federal is all 50 states, overseas, in certain locations and things like that. So federal is all 50 states combined, including their overseas territories and areas like embassies and things like that. That all fits under there. So even though you have the Georgia National Guard, the Georgia National Guard is primarily for the state of Georgia. Then you have the federal side, which is just a much, much larger organization. And so you have these federal contracts. Now, what types of things fall or qualify as government contracts? Let me give you an example. So you have services, right? There may be litter pickup on the side of the road, right? So there may be a county contract when you ride down the street. You know, people throw things out the window every day. So there's a contract usually associated with the cleaning of the roads. So people go out there, clean up the roads, put it in trash bags, dump the bags and all of that. So that's a contract for that. And that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It could be millions of dollars. Really, I haven't seen $1 million contract for it, but I imagine it could be depending on how large the space is that you're covering. But there's a government contract for that. But you're providing a service, right? The service is you're providing bodies, like people to go and provide that service. They may also be looking to, let's say there's a new hospital being brought up by the Veteran Affairs. They're gonna need computers. They're gonna need networking stuff put in. They're gonna need Wi-Fi. They're gonna need all of these other things. And so there's a contract to do every part of the building and setting up of that clinic. But you may also, so let me go back. So if, let's say they need 1,000 laptops or whatever, you can get a contract to provide the 1,000 laptops. They'll tell you what the specs are. You'll like source that type. Let's say they want Hewlett Packard with XYZ amount of RAM. Maybe it needs to have a hard case, this. Tell you what kind of processor is required. And so then you source from different manufacturers that laptop. Talk to the manufacturer, say, hey, I need this. They'll tell you how much they'll charge you to provide that order. You turn around, you tell the government, hey, they're going to charge you, let's say they're going to charge you $800 per laptop. And you turn around and you charge the government $1,100 per laptop. And you write it all up and you say, hey, I'm going to charge you $1,100 per laptop. You want 1,000, it's going to be this much. And then you keep the difference. So that's a government contract. That's an example of selling products to the government. But you may also be required to set up the clinic. Like, because before I was talking about just buying the products to go into the clinic or maybe going to set up the Wi-Fi. But I mean, they may have a contract that says you need to go out and hire the doctors, the nurses, the entire medical staff for a particular clinic. They may want you to actually build and set up the clinic entirely. So that can be a huge contract. I saw one of those. That's why I'm saying this, because I actually saw one where it said it needed so many doctors, so many nurses, so many lab techs, so many whatever, and you're supposed to like figure out how to get these people to come, like how much these people is going to charge to come to work. You were like kind of like a staffing. Sorry about that. Phone fell. But anyway, so it's pretty much a staffing company. So staffing is basically where you're hiring people. But you could also be required to find a location, build a location, also staff the people. It could be huge, huge contracts, huge contracts. So it's not a thing where it's like, okay, I have a company where I manufacture plastic bags. How can I get a government contract? I'm not looking at it from that standpoint, even though that works. If you're already an electrician, or you provide trash bag, or you manufacture trash bags, yeah, they need trash bags. Yeah, you can go ahead and sell them directly to them, whatever your service, your product, or whatever. I'm more, when you come into the way I think about it is, when you come into government contracts, you may have a niche. Maybe you know a lot about IT, or maybe you know a lot about human resources, and that's great. But it doesn't prevent you from doing other kind of contracts. Just because you're an electrician doesn't mean you have to do electrician style contracts. You can do anything. You can do car maintenance. You don't actually have to necessarily do the work yourself. You can hire people to perform that activity. So when I tell people about government contracts and they're saying, well, what can I do? You do anything. Like, it's not where you have to, or they say, oh, I don't have a specialty, like I don't know what I could do. You can do you can hire somebody to do the job. You just have to be able to get the contract and make sure that the amount of money that you're saying you're going to do the contract for, you can afford to, it makes sense, right? Like, you don't want to take a $1 million job and charge $200,000. You're not going to get the job done, So that's all that is. And you can find these different contracts, let's say like the state and county, they have their own websites. So like, say you go to DeKalb County procurement, PROCUREMENT, procurement. So you go to procurement for DeKalb County, and you'll start being able to see maybe the awards and things like that. You get on sam.gov if you want to see like the federal contracts, some of the federal contracts. Yes, you do have to get registered and things like that. There is going to be some requirement of homework as far as finding out how much something is going to cost you to actually complete or do, but it's worth it. This year, between this year and last year, my team has on the books, as far as contracts awarded, 1.1 million, because we'll say like this year, 1.1, 1.2, but like this year, let's just say 1.1. This year we had 300,000, and then we had another contract that is total 845. But it's a team, it's like several people. We have to pay for like bonding and all kinds of things, equipment and things like that. But we're just getting started, It hadn't been a year actually. So from the beginning of the year to now, as far as contracts awarded. Now, we haven't completed the other contract yet, but it's going to take us a couple months to complete that one. But yes, it's 5 months in, and we already on the books with 1.1 million in awarded contracts. So 300,000 is already complete, and then we're getting ready to do this other set for 845. But yeah. And now the one that's 845, the construction, a lot of that is material costs. Materials is like 371,000, and then you got bonding was 25,000, and tools and travel, like we have to be hotels and things like that. So, but still a decent amount of money in the end. So. But anybody can do this, right? I've never been a construction guy. I've done remodeling here and there, like my own houses and stuff, but the money is there, the opportunity is there, and we can all get this money. Anyway, right now you're watching Casino is the Name. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and we out.